Mike King is in the business. Mike King is in the business. Mike King is in the business. Mike King is in the business, man.
In a world where quality business information is needed, we bring you On the Mic with Mike, the leading social enterprise business show in RVA. Join Mike King, the partnership guru, as he delivers game changers in Metro RVA. On the Mic with Mike showcases how business can help make society better. He discusses tech, culture, innovation, best business practices, and highlighting area nonprofits. Join Mike Monday through Friday, because it is the place where the best and brightest come to chat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike, the premier business radio program around. I'm your host, Mike King, and I appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine. I have no connection to, support of, agreement with any other host, information, or ads on the station. I don't work for the station. My program just airs here on a daily basis. Join me as this cutting-edge show. We uplift the community and showcase RVA in a different way. The sound you're listening to are emanating from the Mike King Biz Studio, which is the global epicenter of social enterprise business. You can follow me on social platforms, hashtag Mike King Biz, hashtag On the Mic with Mike. Hey, we'd like to thank our show sponsors, Tom Childry, the credit card guy. If you have merchant service issues, Tom Childry is the man. He's been doing it for more than 25 years. He understands how and the best ways to do your credit card processing, as well as from a security standpoint as well. Also, Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers. If you have things around the house that you need removed, bikes, hot tubs, things of that nature, call Andy Taylor and give him a shout. If you have people around the house that you need removed, don't call him. Do not call Andy Taylor, because your son will not leave. Stop giving gas money. Stop cooking. Maybe then that might entice him to leave. I've been on both sides of that equation. So I'm not saying I'm an expert, but don't call Andy Taylor for that. Call him for other things. He also runs the Remix Market out in Ashland, where when you donate things or you get things out of the house, they redo them, fix them up, tidy them up, and then they sell them to the public. And then they donate the money to charities. That's why I rock with my man, Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers. They're also eco-friendly, as well as Mama Shell's Cafe on the South Side. It is the premier social, I guess they're a restaurant. She has an event space. So if you ever need anything, make sure you check out Mama Shell's Cafe. All righty, folks. I say I get the best and brightest, because I do. That's why we're the best radio program around at a time now. But we're a business-ish. We're a business-ish radio program, and that's what I always say. And people say, well, what's the ish part? The ish part is, I tell people we deal with business life and everything in between, but today we're talking business, and we're talking IT security with the lady who is known, wait a second, I got to get this right, the disaster lady.
I am.
That's, you know what? All righty, ladies and gentlemen, I give it to you, Karen Cole of Assura. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty, now is the time. We are give folks an idea who you are, what you do, and then we're going to touch on some of the information that's out there now, because we live at a very dangerous time as far as IT security. We don't want to scare people, but you kind of got to scare people, because people we'll wait until the last second when the house is on fire, then we're calling the fire department.
Right. And the other thing is that you can do certain things that we'll talk about that can improve your security without breaking the bank.
Okay.
So
which is always a good thing. Okay, let's talk about your path to IT security.
Oh, gracious. So I'll tell you, I was the executive in charge of disaster recovery at a little bank called Capital One.
Okay.
And so I saw this convergence of risk, right? It wasn't, if you had a disaster, it just wasn't a physical disaster, right? It was involving information systems, and it was in multiple areas. And so that sort of morphed into that overall risk management, which eventually became cybersecurity, because everything that we do is controlled by a computer these days. And so from there, when I left Capital One, I started my first company. And I tell everybody that I went and did the disaster recovery business, Mike. And then 3 weeks later, I'm in the fetal position. Nobody's going to buy disaster recovery. And
Nobody. It's not exactly the sexiest thing going around. Back in the day when I used to work in IT, we always used to joke and say, who do we talk to if your site gets hacked? And I say, we'll talk to that guy. And I say, what happens? The guy goes, well, it's a problem, but clearly that's not the person.
right.
We need to talk to the person who's up at night scared, like, hey, we got to make sure that we have our stuff locked down and buttoned up.
Right. So what was interesting was that I started out in disaster recovery and then realized, wait a minute, everything is becoming cybersecurity. So 14 years ago, almost 15, started Assura. And I like to joke that we were kicked out of more offices than I can count.
I can imagine. People were kicking out because they didn't understand.
They didn't understand. They didn't think it was going to be an issue. And hey, wait a minute, I got a firewall, right? I've got some antivirus. Isn't that going to protect me? Yeah, why not? And then they get hacked. And so we are one of the oldest firms. We only do cybersecurity. And that is extremely unusual. You'll find a lot of organizations that, especially in the last couple of years that have popped up, that it's like, okay, we'll be a IT integrator, or we'll sell you, this IT system, and we have cybersecurity over there. And we find that there are a lot of people in the market that are not properly trained, and they are leaving businesses more at risk than where they started. So finding somebody who is qualified to do the work is extremely important.
And you guys are award winning.
We are.
We got to shout that out. Like I said, you got to put some respect on the name right there. Assured. Now, okay, let us know your award.
So this year we made the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies in the United States. And we just made the RVA top 25 of the top 25 fastest growing businesses through Richmond BizSense.
Well, on the mic with Mike, we bring you the best and the brightest. So clearly I am not a trained interviewer. There's certain things that just pop into my mind. A lot of times the one thing that a person knows about women in tech, girls in STEM, things like that, is Kim Commando. Mm-hmm. That is all. Can you touch on what it's like being a woman in the cybersecurity world?
So when I started my career, I was used to being the only woman in the room.
I can imagine. Yes.
And I will tell you, I'll give you some of the funniest feedback I ever got from a manager. I remember that I was going for a promotion, and this was actually at Capital One. And so Mike, I'm sitting there, he calls me in my office. He's like, Karen, if you really want to, move up, you gotta soften it. You just got to, play nice. And I was like, well, what exactly are you talking about? And he's like, Karen, you're scaring the men. And I stopped, I took a deep breath. I was like, well, then they need to put their big boy pants on and deal with it. So that's what a lot of your
ma'am, I wasn't going to go there, but all women are not like that. All women are not the tough women. I know because I married one. Then it can be a bumpy road at times.
It can.
It can be. So when you're in there giving the men the information, sometimes they're looking at you like a little sideways. You have to prove yourself over and over again. And then the word starts to be on Assura is good. Mm-hmm. At what point did it become sort of that where it wasn't just Karen Cole telling you, it was just like, okay, those guys are really good. When did that light bulb come on?
I will say probably after the first few years. And what also made it interesting was that a year or so after I started my business, I actually pestered my husband to join the company. And he originally was reluctant because he was like, I don't want to be on divorce number 2.
Exactly.
Right. But we were both in the industry. And so even at the beginning, they're like, well, where's your husband? Is he going to come and talk tech? And I'm like, I got this handled, and so the one thing that I tell folks, especially women in tech, the first thing is that you can't hold that chip on your shoulder. You can't hold that grudge, because then they win and it holds you back.
All righty. So we have Karen Cole here. She is an expert in the field of technology. This is a business show, ma'am. So now is the time. I talked to a lot of business owners, and I bet a bunch of them are out there with their fingers crossed, toes crossed. They're like, boy, I sure hope this thing does not happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to the listeners, we're going to start off something. What's the little thing called ransomware, and how can folks at home handle it, be cautious of it, and what can a business owner do? What they should do is call you, but you know, for the hard-headed ones who are not out there, who are not there yet, what do they need to do? Some tips from an industry expert.
Okay, so ransomware is really, in the simplest way, when either, you know, some sort of software is injected or a person has clicked on a link, and what happens is that software locks down your system. So the only way, and we call it's encrypted, right? So then what happens is you're contacted by the hacker and they're saying, okay, for this amount of money, if you pay me, I will give you the encryption key. Now, interestingly enough, you can pay the ransom and sometimes they don't give you the encryption key. And on top of it, why should you have to pay to get your own data? So that's the whole scam, but it's a huge scam. It is worth billions of dollars. And it's past the day, Mike, where you would think that, hey, it's some pimply faced teenager in their basement doing this. This is organized crime across the globe that's involved in this.
So when we talk about that, we see whether it's hospitals now, financial institutions, municipalities, everyone is running into this. Are most of them paying? Okay, it was even the word with the pipeline. Is it true that people are paying to get their information released?
Yeah, here's the insidiousness of ransomware, Mike. People don't understand that hackers are usually in your environment up to 18 months if it's not properly protected, up to 18 months before they actually hit you. And here's why. When you're there, what's happening is that not only do they want to lock you at the time, they want to get all of your backups as well. So as soon as you recover, boom, you're locked again. So what happens is that you need to have somebody who is knowledgeable that's going to come in there and understand, one, how to find those indicators of compromise to prevent you from being locked down, even if you do get bit, right? And also has the knowledge of how to negotiate. So with some of those folks, when you talk about municipalities, school systems, they don't have cybersecurity folks on staff. And that's one of the things that we do is that it's expensive, it's complicated, and we put it in a price point, and having really knowledgeable people on staff that are available and protecting you, and they don't have to sit in your office.
Gotcha. Okay. So Karen Cole is here with the Sure. How can people find you out there?
First thing to go to is www.assureinc.com. And you can reach us through the website. You can reach us through our phone number. I will tell you that one of the things, when you asked me earlier about what organizations can do, I think the first thing is understanding that when I talk with business leaders or when I talk with just individuals, is understanding that cybersecurity is no longer a luxury, it is a requirement. And it has to be part of your regular operations. So let's take businesses, for example, right? You'll set aside money for your finance department. You don't want the same person who is writing the check, signing the check, reconciling the check, right? If you get to a certain point, unless you're the business owner and the chief cook and bottle washer, and you have to. But having that sort of checks and balances in place and understanding, okay, security and IT is the same thing, right? We're partnering with IT, but we're seeing things that they don't see. And a person who is administering your environment, like a sysadmin, they also don't have enough cycles to be protecting your environment. So you need somebody from a cybersecurity standpoint that's helping you to layer security. So we talk about security like an onion, Mike. You know, if you think about, let's have a moment of silence for the blooming onions at out back. It's
That's
kind of
for
like
sure.
that, right? It's the layers of security that are needed in the environment. One of it, when you're talking about ransomware, is what you would call endpoint protection, right? It's like it's beyond antivirus. So check this out. Think about artificial intelligence. And so what's happening is that you have a device, and in the background, instead of trying to play whack-a-mole, right, and trying to figure out, okay, where that compromise is, and yeah, software does that, and that's still very necessary. AI is going to look at patterns of behavior now, and it's going to go, okay, you know what, that's unusual for Mike. Maybe I need to throw up an alert. So that's how we get ahead of it now. But you need to have something with predictive behavior in it, and that's coupled with monitoring. But the biggest thing that businesses can do is understanding that cybersecurity needs needs the policies, they need the structure, because at its core, cybersecurity is a business issue. People don't intentionally go and click that link. Yeah, there's some malicious people out there that want to harm their company. That's very rare. But what's happening is that, like, let's say that you have your regular office worker, they accidentally click a link. Well, first off, they haven't been trained in how to spot it. And then when it happens, they don't know who to talk to or what to do about it.
Like the commercial that says they clicked it, you want to get away?
Yeah.
It's too late. It is too late. You are going to be getting contacted by the IT department, and they're going to want to talk to you. One of my Karen Cole rocking with me today. We got to go ahead and pay some bills. I always say microphone ain't free. Plus my grandkids need stuff. We'll be back on the other side.
Hi, this is On the Mic with Mike, is the best business radio program in the game.
On the mic with Mike.
On the mic with Mike. On the mic with Mike. On the mic with Mike.
I'm on the mic with Mike. He's like a guru,
No, he's a businessman with a great radio show.
and he supports the nonprofits.
Watch his show and grow.
Mike with Mike. From Michael Mike. From the Michael Mike. Michael Mike. My name is Isabella, and you're listening to My King Biz. Hubby, that's my scam.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike, the best business radio program around. That's my granddaughter Isabella, plus my grandkids. They'll eventually get the name of the program right. Yeah, I don't know what's so hard about it. But like I said, we like to thank our show sponsors, Tom Trudy, the credit card guy, Andy Taylor, Junk Luggers, Mama Shell's Cafe, and a shout out to some other partners who are out there. Chris Mayfield doing big things as far as community goes. He is Profusion Consulting. We have Rob White and Fast Signs, among others who are out there. But today we're with Karen Cole of Assura. And how can people find Assura once again?
www.assurainc.com, assurainc.com.
Okay, so I ask people all the time when they come here, Corona showed up, it changed the world with the way we did business. What have you learned? Okay, so what did the world look like from your standpoint pre-Corona and now, where we are now? I know remote working changed a lot of things for a lot of business folks that added an extra level of concern.
Right. So what's interesting is that you've already hit on the biggest one, is that before Corona, everything was very office centric. And to a certain extent, that made security a lot easier, right? You know, you have a very distinct environment. Well, then everybody goes remote. And so one of the things was it really put an emphasis on that, what we call endpoint security, that device security, because now those devices aren't within your office.
Correct.
You know, now instead of having one office, if you have 20 employees, you have 20 offices. Right?
And everybody's not up to speed as far as from the security standpoint of things. And you had said that's policy.
Yeah. So it's a marriage. It's a marriage of the people and that sort of what we call that governance side, which is having plans in place and policies and things like that, and the technology. And what's interesting about our company is that we marry both, but it's not unusual when a business owner is out in the marketplace that they'll find an organization that does one or the other, but you need both in order to be truly secure.
One of the things that we talked about, and we talked about it off air as well, was scope creep, that's what you do is security.
Mhm.
You're not doing integration and all those other things. Talk about what happens that happens to organizations, and why have you guys stayed true to that?
So we wanted to be and are the best at cybersecurity.
See,
and
that's
we
what I'm
would
talking
do.
about. When you drop it like that, like, hey, there's some other folks out there, but we're the best.
We are.
That's the bottom line to it. And well, that's what media has said about you.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank
on that.
you. Thank you. So, but it's interesting, Mike, because at the beginning, everybody was like, Karen, you have your company, but you really need to, be an IT integrator like we talked about before. Well, then you're spread so thin. And even within the world of cybersecurity, Mike, there's still a lot of area to cover, but that's all we do. So the nice thing is that when we partner with organizations, let's take IT MSPs, for example, we're not a threat to them. We're a complement to them, because there aren't enough cybersecurity people around. There's only 30% of the people to meet the need right now. That's why Governor McAuliffe, when he was in office, he was very focused on building out Virginia to be the Silicon Valley of cybersecurity, because you can graduate college, Mike, and start out making $80,000 a year if you have a cybersecurity degree. They're very lucrative.
And so one of the things we talked about, that there are a number of programs around that are not degreed programs. Can you touch on that? All righty. So here, ladies and gentlemen, what I do is, I don't carry interviews over for the most part. That's not what I do. But sometimes the guests are so good, we ain't done with this one. We are not done, because there's so many things I got to talk about. All right. So we have the degree stuff. We have certificate programs for IT professionals, as well as we're going to touch on some things that are out there, like what was the hubbub with TikTok and all that.
Mhm,
So Mike King here, ESPN Richmond. You can find me 5 to 7 a.m. here, as well as on the Choice 105.3. That's where we are 2 to 3 every day. So that's the Mike King Biz Radio Network. We'll be back on the other side. Thanks.